Howdy campers, the people have spoken and the people overwhelmingly wanted a 1986 Audi 4000 CS Quattro Walkaround. So this is my little red Audi, nicknamed der Skiwagen. I purchased it in October, actually the week of Halloween of 2015. I've had it ever since. It is September of 2023 now. So we've got a lot of time together. It is a pretty typical Audi 4000 in the fact that it has been beat on pretty hard and been handed around by various people as many as maybe 11 or 12 times in the past 30 some years. But it's running really great. I've done a ton of mechanical work to it. It has these are 14-inch wheels from, I believe, an Audi 80 or 200. It's from a later Audi, but they are OEM Audi wheels. They're actually a BBS package. It has been repainted once. It was repainted pretty, I'm not going to say poorly, but it was a very simple repainting job done probably 10 or 15 years ago. And it polishes up okay, but it's got some rust there. I'll go into detail on that a little bit later, but as many of you know, the original red on this, Tornado Red, is a single stage, and when it was repainted, you can actually see the red where it comes through. This is the original color, and that's actually pretty nice. I kind of wish I still had that, but they did a gray primer with a red on top of that over it. Cheeky little accent piece there. It's got all original glass, which is really nice. Good and bad. The windshield is a little bit pitted just from, decades of road damage. So it's not cracked. There's one chip. I think it's in very good shape. But then if you get it really clean and you're driving into the sun, you do have the little sort of galaxy sparkles all over it. As far as I can tell, it hasn't been any major accidents. I know I've done it once. I know it's kissed a snowbank, and behind the headlights and the grill, you can see the metal body structure. And I do have this piece. I took it out because I sort of thought it would fall out, and then that was in like 2016, and I probably could afford to just put it back in. But the metal skin behind it, you can tell has been pushed in and pulled out and pushed in and pulled out a couple of times. These Hella 500 fog lamps were on it when I got it. I love them. They are super bright. They are properly relayed with their own independent relay, fuse, and switch, which is on the inside of the vehicle on the glove box. These are... They look like the normal DOT 9001, 9004 bulbs. They're actually an H4, so they're not... I don't know if they're a Euro spec. They're not. When people think of the Euro spec, it's a one-piece wraparound, and they have your corner micro. I believe it's an orange bulb and a clear housing, and then you would have a fog light here, I believe. I don't remember exactly. I think there's actually. I know this is a U.S. bumper with the reflector, and this structure is different on the European model. But all that to say, this is an H4, a standard U.S. appearing housing with an H4 bulb. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or a non-European market thing, but it's a nice little upgrade. It's not as nice as the true European ones, but those are also properly relayed. I'm going to pop the hood open and give you guys a little tour of that. This one, I only have two of these housings, unfortunately. I have the glass for this. This was broken since before I got it. It's a nice kind of little accent piece, but it does not work very well. So someday I'm going to just break off the glass and reinstall it, because you can see this whole housing, all of these, this RTV is tracing cracks. I mean, actually, it sits on tight, but the whole thing's cracked. Yeah, so the bumpers are plastic. I don't know if they have been repainted. They're actually a nice, decent, I mean, it's very muted red, but it is a decent muted red that doesn't fade nearly as bad as this paint does. As you can see, we did repaint the hood ourselves. Melody, my wife, actually did it, and she did it early on. It was kind of a practice for both of us. It's really thick, and it is red. That's the most important part. I'll see if I can put a picture in, but when I got it, there was just a whole band of just bare metal here that had surface rust on it, and the hood was actually in the worst shape of the entire body. So now it's not a perfect finish, and it's got some kind of varying depths of paint, but it is no longer the worst panel by far. It's pretty straight. There's some rust coming through. Not horrible, but you know that's definitely that's more than just surface rust. Unfortunately, it's coming through there. Clearly, it's water's collecting behind this trim piece here, and so it's not great. But then a little more here as well. But in a way, I've got some sort of stone chips here, but in a way, it's kind of a relief having a. It's no longer, if it ever was in beater status, it's kind of evolved beyond that. But this is definitely the most presentable side here. And Melody gave it a shine a few months ago, and it still looks really nice. I did put the Quattro decals on. That's a really nice vinyl decal. I think there's a guy actually in Latvia that I got it from, Latvia or Estonia. Got a little more rust there, but I greatly prefer these wheels, even though 15s are kind of the perfect size for this vehicle. The original BBS Audi 14s, I really like those. I also have matching hubcaps with some spares. A little more surface rust there. And then the accent piece, yeah, you can see. So this has been wiped down clean and that's dirty, but I actually did repaint this bumper. I just rattle canned it, and I am honestly really happy with how it came out. Once again, this was my winter vehicle, my winter daily driver. 2 seasons I drove it, 12 months a year, and it was very hot, but it did the job and it never left me stranded. But yeah, these are, I just went over this. I actually used a Q-tip and LY7W, I think, Audi silver paint for my B5A4. Give it some nice pop. If you get too close, it's not great, but from here, oh man, it really pops out. The roof rack came with it as well. I rebuilt it. These had rusted. These didn't have end caps, and they had rusted internally, and I was actually able to salvage the towers. This is Yakima 1A is the model. If you're any, pre-80s vehicle that has rain gutters, it's going to be a Yakima 1A tower that you're going to look for. If you're so inclined. But this actually came with it. Like I said, I replaced the bars and I upgraded to a larger, slightly newer ski rack. Got another car coming. Another item here. I guess they're locked, so I can't do it right now, but I went through and I did every single door handle. When I got it, the driver... So what's nice is this is the original driver door handle with the original lock. So I actually do have this as a matching ignition and door lock key. That's really nice. It is the only one. I actually have the core for the lock on this side. Coming back to that. So all 3 other exterior door handles I did replace. This is a new old stock Audi piece, which is really nice. This is the nicest of them all. This is another new old stock German Audi piece. Unfortunately, it's a slightly different, it's either newer or older. And this is a good lock, and I have a key for it, but I couldn't get the original core to match the driver's side into this one, but at least I've got it's a nice finish, nice trim piece, and a nice working lock. The power locks, you can hear them work. The vacuum, for one reason or another, I can't find the vacuum leak, but it's not officially... The power locks aren't officially working. When you pull up the driver's side, you can hear it whine, but it doesn't actually engage. That's kind of annoying, something on the long list of items to fix. But the everyone's favorite Sparco mud flaps, unfortunately the stickers don't seem to last very well. But I've replaced all 4 of them at least once, I think. This most recent one, the 2 rear are the newest, and these are great, and I've had no issues with it. For a while, they would kind of only last like 1 year. So these 2, this is a matching set in the back. Sticker's breaking up, but it's got a little curve to it. It's got a lot more flexibility. Very happy with those. But this is the last of the first generation, and they're really brittle. And like I said, they would last basically 1 winter, and I'd have to go through and replace them. I need to pop this one on, and the one I have to replace that is from that generation, or from the same order. So I'm hoping that that's going to be an improvement. But I used all stainless steel hardware. I individually bought the number of screws I wanted. I have them mounted in. Whenever I replace one, obviously I just kind of use the other one as a template. While we're in here, I'm not sure how well it's not going to show up at all. I didn't bring a light, but if you notice, it may not show up that well without a comparison vehicle. This sits about an inch high, I think. It has the previous owner, or one of the previous owners, put on blue GKR, I think it's Giant Killer Racing springs on it. They're a company out of California. I don't think they've been around for at least a decade or more. Um, but they're blue. They have hand painted red lettering with I think the size and rating and load and all that. It also, so it's got that on all four wheels, a matching set of four. It also has Coney coilovers, which are adjustable with a little plastic tool. And this thing is really stiff. There's actually no front sway bar in it. And I just drove it on snow tires for a couple, 2 years, I think. And then this set of BBS wheels came with it, and I put a Hankook Optimo 724 on it. It's a 195 width, and this thing just drives on rails. I absolutely love it. It handles really well. Let's try, there we go. A little bit, I mean, obviously they're rusty. These things have been on here for a long time, but blue custom springs with red hand-painted lettering on them. These tires wear really well, they handle really well, they brake really well. Just really, really love those. And working door handle, pop this open. One of the, I mean, you wouldn't think it, but one of the nicest features of this vehicle is the interior is honestly really, really, really clean. I have cleaned it. I've had the whole interior out and hand washed the seats, but the seats are in good condition. I have all four matching Audi ring mud flaps for it. This is a European, not that it makes any difference, besides, 5 horsepower. It's a walnut European, I think it's a VW shift knob, and it actually has, instead of fifth or overdrive, it actually has E for economy. I think that's kind of cool. And this is maybe 80% of the size of the original shift knob, so I don't know, just kind of a nice little more delicate shifter feel. It did come with an aftermarket stereo. The front two speakers work, but nothing in the back does. I know it was wired for a sub at one point, but I ripped that all out years ago. We've got everyone's favorite, the center and rear locking diff option, which does work on this. It's vacuum actuated, and I should go back and replace the lines, but it does work. It charges really well. The oil temp works, so, volt gauge works, oil temp works. All of the gauges, besides, of course, the odometer, work. I believe I was told it was about 170,000 when I bought it. I think that's accurate. I believe that. Just, the road miles, the butt miles, the steering wheel miles, the things that can't lie, they do add up. While we're in here. So this is how I have the relays set up, and they are wired directly to the battery, so I can actually power them on with the vehicle off. So that's handy. And I didn't want to put any holes in anywhere, so I just have this in here, but it's routed nicely, and it's got the harness tucked up, and I can even pop that off the harness if I want. So that's a nice little feature. Road's getting busy. So like I said, this is a really nice feature. I have all four Audi Ring original floor mats for it, so that's pretty cool. You can see there's just a little bit of surface rust in areas like the fronts of the doors, but this vehicle, the earliest records I could find, yeah, the seats are in really good shape back here. This piping always, I think all of them at this point have that piping kind of coming out. These seats are surprisingly comfortable. It's it's 1980s foam, but they've got nice support, and haven't spent much time in the back seat, but it's not too bad. These have I guess depending on how you look at it, it's a decent sized trunk for an all-wheel drive vehicle. The trunks on these are very different in the Quattro, between the Quattro and the front-wheel drive, obviously. You have a huge vertical gas tank. I think it's actually, you can't really see it, but, back there. I think it's actually 21 gallons, which is a ton for a sedan. But you've got these frame rails here. Your rear, or your muffler is right here. Your rear diff is taking up all that space down there, but kind of a funky layout. You've got these really big pockets in here. This is actually rare to have this in place and not have it all busted up, so that's kind of cool to have. Same thing. I do have the original spare tire and jack. I've got the original kit for it, but same kind of thing. It's this really deep pocket, which is kind of goofy, but nice if you're carrying small stuff. There's actually not that much rust in the trunk. If you dig in here, There's a little bit of rust in there, unfortunately. But another thing, this didn't work for, well, it worked great. The lock works. It even worked with the power locks, kind of, sort of, not really. It worked with the key just fine, and I'd open it with the key. And then one day it got stuck, and I couldn't get it open. I had a bunch of stuff in, fortunately not like groceries or anything, but I have my box full of tools and some stuff in there, and I just couldn't get the lock to work with the key. And so a couple years went by actually with it, and I finally was like, all right, I need to do something about this. There was like a really nice multi-tool I had, and jumper cables and a tow strap and stuff. So I finally took it to a locksmith. I was like, hey, can you play with this, see if you can get it to work? And he just laid into it with like lithium grease and gave it the master's touch, and he got it open. Ever since then, I've actually kept this. I just kept it unlocked and set up to just open it with your thumb. Don't need the key anymore. I'd rather run the risk of, I don't keep anything in the trunk. If someone's rooting around and they want to get in, they're going to get in either way. I might as well leave it unlocked and not have to deal with a blown out lock if someone really wants to get in there. Like I said, I keep it empty, but we can pop open the hood and I'll give a quick tour. All right, here it is, the legendary 10-valve, 5-cylinder Bosch CIS JT engine. I did the head gasket on this. Everything was in decent shape when I got it, and things kind of started to break one by one. And so I learned a lot. Actually, I fundamentally learned so much about working on cars on this. I was knowledgeable, but this kind of forced my hand to say, well, I need to do a head gasket. Is that something I'm going to pay thousands of dollars for someone else to do, or am I just going to park it at my parents and dive in and get it done? I was living in an apartment downtown at that point, so it was quite the undertaking. Spent a lot of weeknights wrenching at my parents' house, but we got it. What ultimately failed on it was the water pump had been leaking, and someone went to the effort of quote unquote repairing it, but all they did was smear a bunch of RTV on it. And so there was a slow coolant leak, and I was like, oh, I really need to do something about that. And then one night, unfortunately, I hadn't really been tracking the level. It was my daily driver, and I was just driving to work and back. And sure enough, one day the light came on. I said, oh, shoot. And it was in the winter, so I was like, well, okay, I mean, I can. What I should have done is parked it and then limped it home at another time, but I just drove it to my parents' house and parked it. And it was, it seemed fine, but then the next time I went to start it, it wasn't running right. There was white smoke out the tailpipe, and I was like, well, I guess that answers that. Looking back on it, I actually never did a compression test, which was really foolish. I mean, the head gasket was bad, but I learned very quickly, or I knew going forward, no matter how bad your head gasket failure is, it's good practice to do a compression test, isolate which cylinder failed, determine if it's an internal failure, an external failure. That's the kind of thing you want to do. Things I've done on this is I did the brake proportioning valve. That was a very expensive piece, which I tracked down and did myself. I replaced both upper and lower temperature sensors. Your upper one here goes to your gauge. Your lower one goes to the ECU. So you can actually, if you're having issues with cold starts or hot starts, that's one place you want to look. There's also, you won't be able to see it from here, but the thermo time switch in the back, which is an can you see? Probably not. Extremely expensive, hard to find sensor, but I did that one as well. I did cap, and I replaced the cap because the one on it didn't match. It was obviously it was a 5-cylinder, but this was a slightly different part number with a noise suppressor. This rubber boot is a noise suppressor. I upgraded, I put on NGK spark plug wires. Really happy with those. I also did the ignition coil just to be proactive. I do have the original. It works just fine. Everything over here is as I got it. No, I take that back. I got a spare engine that had much nicer fuel lines, so I did replace these fuel lines. As you can see down there, all of the there's just some rust on it here. All of them look like this, and I just had, I got an engine for really cheap, and it came with the distributor, the fuel distributor, so I just popped all these off and replaced them. Really happy with that. Cold start, no, I did not replace the cold start valve, but yeah, it's got some leaks, but it's not pretty, but it runs really well now. Hot starts, cold starts. I mean, it's very hot to drive in this summer, but you can, 100-degree day, you can go in and get groceries and park it and come out and start it right back up. So if you have any other comments or any other questions, or if there's anything else you want me to go over, then please leave a comment and I can do another more isolated video. I don't want to make this just a huge run along. I have completely redone the brakes on this, front and back. Both rear calipers are new. I rebuilt the front calipers, new rotors, new brake pads, new lines. Same thing here, new rotors, new brake pads, new brake hoses, I should say. What else have I done? It got a whole new exhaust because unfortunately I was working at the airport. They salt the road like crazy and it just rusted out my exhaust. And I actually on the way home from work, I drove straight to the muffler shop, the exhaust shop, because my muffler was literally hanging off and just dangling, just balanced on 2 rubber mounts. So they forced my hand on that one. I also completely rebuilt and overhauled the central drive shaft, the main drive shaft underneath it. New bearings, new carrier bearing, new U-joint. That was a big job. I'm very happy I did it. The carrier bearing was worn out and clattering, and it sounded like a chainsaw right underneath the driver's seat. So that was a fun job. It's got all new belts. I've done just so much on this, and pre-COVID, before the value of everything started to blow up, I was looking for a nicer one to upgrade to and then sell this one. But as the years have gone by and these have kind of come off the market, or the nice ones have gotten really expensive, this thing just, it's exactly what I need it to be. If it was much nicer, I probably wouldn't drive it as much. Even now, I just take it out every couple of weeks. It does get a couple ski trips a year. I take it out in the snow and the slush, and it does great. If it's a really snowy day, I'll take it out and and brap around, just have some fun with it. It's just a great thing. Do I recommend them? I think so. If you if you know someone that works on them, or if you want to learn and you get the red Bentley manual and you want to do it yourself, they're an absolute blast. There's no other car like it. They're not fast. They're like 115 horsepower new, it's maybe 90 something now, but they're just a blast. They got super tight steering. They feel like a GTI, a little, Mark 1, Mark 2 VW. They're really small cars, but they're a 4-seater. They've got a decent trunk. They're really practical. You find a lot of these that have 300, 400,000 miles on them. I think all of them have over 200 just about. But yeah, this little guy has been a great companion. I've learned a lot. He's tested me, and looks like I'm probably going to have it for years to come. All right, let's try this out, see how it goes. Sweet, sweet sounds of a West German symphony. You thought I was gonna end the video without showing you all the crazy lights all lit up? Please, don't be ridiculous. It's all part of the experience. It's just a great little buddy. And look at that, and even the cooling fan even works. Thanks, guys. Next time I have to actually do work on this, I'll be sure to bring you along. Oh, messing with light. All right.